My Dream of Heaven, Chapter 10, Part 2. How do you know she's coming, children? I've just been to the house. No one's there. But she is coming, said little Lee. We had a message from Grandpa, and he is to bring her. Then I will tell the others, and we will all come to welcome her, I said. With a great joy in my heart, I hastened onward to my father's house. I found them awaiting me, full of joyful expectation. Yes, we also have had word, my father said, and we're only awaiting your return, that we might go together. Then I will go for Brother Frank, that he also may accompany us, I said. He is here, said a genial voice, and looking up, I saw him at the door. Colonel Sprague is always present when he is needed, said my father cordially. So we set forth, a goodly company, to welcome this dearly loved one to her home. My father, my mother, my sister Jody, my brother the doctor, and his two fair daughters, my Aunt Gray, her son Martin, and his wife and daughter, my brother Frank, and I. As we approached the house, we heard the sound of joyous voices, and looking in, we saw my sister standing in the room, her husband's arm around her, and the happy grandchildren thronged about them like hummingbirds among the flowers. But what was this? Could this radiant creature with smooth brow and happy eyes be the pale, wan woman I had last seen, so bowed with suffering and sorrow? I looked with eager eyes. Yes, it was my sister, but as she was full 30 years ago, with the bloom of health upon her face and the light of youth in her tender eyes. I drew back into the shadow of the vines and let the others precede me, for my heart was full of a strange triumphant joy. This truly was the victory over death so surely promised by our risen Lord. I watched the happy greetings and the way she took each beloved one into her tender arms. When one by one she had greeted and embraced them all, I saw her with a strange yearning at my heart turn and look wistfully around, and then whisper to my father, "Isn't my little sister here?" I could wait no longer, but hastened to her side, crying, "Dearest, I am here. Welcome, welcome." She folded me to her heart and held me fast in her warm arms. She showered me with kisses upon my upturned face, while I returned each loving caress, and laughed and cried for very gladness that she had come at last. Oh, what a family reunion was that inside the walls of heaven, and how its bliss was heightened by the sure knowledge, not the hope, that there should be no partings for us henceforth forever. My brother Oliver looked on with proud and happy eyes. The hour for which he had longed and waited had come to him at last. His home life would now be complete forevermore. I told him how I had waited for him that day, and he said, "We saw you as you left the house, but were too distant to call you. I had taken her into the river, and she had looked at and admired the house very greatly before she knew it was our house." "What did she do when she saw her lovely room?" "She cried like a child, and clung to me, and said, 'This more than repays us for the lost home of earth.' If the children had not come, I think she would have been at that window still," he said, laughing happily. "I'm glad you had her all to yourself at the first," I whispered. "You deserve that happiness, dear, if any man ever did." He smiled gratefully, and looked over at his wife, where she stood the center of a happy group. "Doesn't she look very young to you, Oliver?" I asked. The years rolled from her like a mask as we sat beneath the water in the river. Ah, truly in those life-giving waters do we all renew our youth. But she became at once uncommonly fair and young. "Her coming has brought youth likewise to you," I said, noting his fresh complexion and his sparkling eyes. "But I hope it will not change your silver hair, for that is to you a crown of glory." He looked at me a moment critically, and then said, "I wonder if you realize the change that has likewise come to you in this wonderful climate?" "I?" I said, a little startled at the thought. I confess I have not once thought of my personal appearance. I realize what, through the Father's mercy, this life has done for me spiritually, but as for the other, I have never given it an instant's thought. The change is fully as great in your case as in Lou's, though with you the change has been more gradual," he said. I felt a strange thrill of joy that when my dear husband should come to me, he would find me with the freshness and comeliness of our earlier years. It was a sweet thought, and my heart was full of gratitude to the Father for this further evidence of his loving care. So we talked together as the hours sped, until my father said, "Come, children, we mustn't forget that this dear daughter of mine needs rest this first day in her new home. Let us leave her and her happy husband to their new-found bliss." So, with light hearts, we went on our way, and left them to spend their first hours in heaven together. End of chapter 10.